You ever meet a neighbor who thinks your land is actually his? Mine tried to steal part of my farm, moved my markers, even plowed over my field like he owned it. Until I built a fence he couldn't ignore. He laughed at first right up until the day his brand new tractor got stuck, seized, and taken away. And trust me, karma on a farm hits harder than any storm. Asterisk, I've lived on my farmland for over 40 years. It's quiet, honest work, the kind that keeps a man grounded. My neighbor, however, had other ideas. A man named Clint, loud, pushy, and always acting like he owned every inch of the county. For years we stayed civil, a wave here and there, but everything changed the day he decided my land should be his. It started small. I noticed one of my boundary markers looked off. I shrugged it off at first. No, animals, maybe even kids messing around. But a week later, the marker had moved again, 3 feet deeper into my side. Then 5, then 10. That's when my stomach dropped. Clint wasn't being careless. He was inching into my land, slow and sneaky, hoping I wouldn't notice. One morning, I stepped outside and saw tire tracks from his tractor cutting into the edge of my field. He had plowed about 20 yards onto my side like it was nothing. That was the day I walked over and confronted him. He stood there, smirking, hands on his hips. "Boundaries shift," he said, as if I didn't know exactly where my land started and ended. I'd lived there since before he even bought his place. He claimed the map he had showed a different line. Funny thing was, when I asked to see that map, he suddenly didn't have it. I let him know real clear, "Move on to my land again, and we'll have a problem." He just chuckled. "We'll see," he said. That arrogant little grin of his told me this wasn't over. The next few days I kept watch. And sure enough, early one morning I saw him out there again, driving that shiny orange tractor of his right over my soil, cutting a clean path like he was preparing to claim it. That was it. I wasn't letting a man with more ego than common sense take what I worked my whole life for. The solution came to me fast and simple. Build a fence. A tall, solid, unmistakable boundary line that even Clint couldn't argue with. I made some calls, got everything recorded with the county, double-checked my land survey, and the measurements were crystal clear. The land was mine. Every inch of it. So I spent 2 full days working sunup to sundown. Digging, cementing, placing posts straight and deep. Heavy-duty wood. Reinforced panels. A fence you could see from the road. I was tired enough to sleep standing up, but every post I drove into the ground felt like reclaiming my peace. On the 3rd morning, Clint stormed out of his house yelling, "You can't put up a fence there. That's my land." I didn't even look up. "County says it's mine. Fence stays." He swung his arms around, pacing like a toddler denied a toy. "We'll see about that. You'll be sorry. But here's the thing about a farm: patience pays off. And karma loves a good setup. A snowstorm hit that week. Heavy wet snow, the kind that turns soil soft underneath but stays packed on top. Clint didn't know that. Or maybe he was too angry to think straight. Because early the next morning I heard the rumble of his tractor. I peeked out my window and saw him trying to plow right up against the fence. Maybe planning to knock it down or prove some kind of point. Instead, he got stuck, deep. His back wheels spun, chewing into the softened earth until the whole machine tilted. He kept gunning it. Big mistake. The tractor slid sideways right into a deep muddy dip that formed from melting snow. And then, crack. The axle snapped. His prized tractor leaned awkwardly like a wounded animal. I walked outside slow, hands in my jacket pockets. He was standing there screaming at the ground, kicking the tires, snow spraying everywhere. When he saw me, he pointed and shouted, "This is your fault." "No," I said calmly. "This is what happens when you try to steal land that isn't yours." He tried to call a tow service. They took one look and refused to touch it. Too dangerous, too deep, too unstable. Eventually, he had to call the county. And when they showed up, they didn't just see a stuck tractor. They saw a man trying to dig up property that wasn't his. Turns out Clint's little boundary games weren't new. He'd tried this with another neighbor years back. And now the county had proof, plus photos from the fence line and land survey. He was fined thousands. And because he refused to pay and kept arguing, they ended up putting a lien on part of his property. 2 months later, the county didn't just tow his tractor, they seized it. The look on his face when they loaded his beloved machine onto the flatbed. Priceless. The sheriff handed him the paperwork while he stood there red-faced, shaking with anger he had no one to blame for that. As for me, I kept my land. The fence stands strong. And Clint? Well, he never tried crossing that line again. In fact, he barely looks in my direction anymore. Funny how fast a man's attitude changes when karma takes the wheel. And the tractor.